Hi, I'm Susan Drumm, and welcome to the Enlightened Executive, where your personal evolution sparks your leadership evolution. Each episode, we feature groundbreaking techniques and strategies to help you get the edge in personal and leadership effectiveness. This episode is brought to you by Meritage Leadership. At Meritage, we strengthen leaders and empower teams to achieve high performance. Go to meritageleadership.com to learn more. Are you curious about your own development path to enlightened leadership? Take our free 5-minute quiz at susandrum.com to discover the superpower and roadblocks that could get in your way of effective leadership. Today, we're focusing on the power of curiosity. And I am so excited to introduce my guest, Brandon Fong. Brandon is a connector and host of the top 2% globally ranked Beyond Curious podcast, which I was recently on, which was so exciting. His life purpose is to create more deeply connected world by catalyzing curiosity. Every week on his podcast, Brandon interviews incredible humans, including Olympians, highly successful entrepreneurs, New York Times bestselling authors, and TED speakers. He's also interviewed an FBI hostage negotiator, a decorated Air Force pilot, an illusionist, a Hollywood legend, an NFL player, and a shark from the Shark Tank. Welcome, Brandon. I'm so excited to see you again.
Susan, I'm loving Brandon and Susan time. Last week was so energizing on my show, so excited to be here and play with you today.
It was so fun to be with you last week, and we got into some good stuff. So maybe we should start there. I'm so curious because we haven't talked about it, what some of your takeaways were from our conversation.
Yeah, well, I think, Susan, what really aligns your work and my work, there's a quote that has really driven me at the core, and it's the quote by Carl Jung: "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate." And I think that's what's so beautiful about your work and the old playlist. That's essentially what that is how do you recognize and increase your awareness of those unconscious narratives that are driving the reality that you have. And sometimes awareness is medicine, and sometimes just being aware of that creates lots of power. But what I love about your work is not only do you mirror the old playlist, but then you shift that to an empowering playlist, and how do you move that forward? So yeah, what came up last week was I realized that my old playlist was represented by the song from Ozzy Osbourne, "I Don't Want to Stop." And I think it's driven me, and it's created a lot of results in my life because I mean, the drive to create and manifest and create things in the world has been so strong in me. But I'm entering in a new season of life right now where I have a 16-month-old daughter at home. I've been with my wife for 12 years, and so it's something that has served me and gotten me where I want to go. But this relentless chase and pursuit of not being able to be present with my family at the end of the day and not be thinking about other things is something that maybe requires some shifting. So being able to simply label my old playlist of "I Don't Want to Stop," constantly always going, and create a new playlist of a new balance was really, really exciting for me. So the part that I didn't share with you, Susan, is I was the day after our interview, I was going through my Spotify playlist, and I'm like, okay, what's the new playlist going to be? Like, what's the anchor song? How am I going to develop it? And I'm like going through all these songs, and nothing, like, there's a few things that fit, but not like, it didn't feel like it really landed. And I'm not kidding when I say I'm in the middle of this playlist and my friend texted me, and it's actually my birthday tomorrow at the day of this recording. So she sent
Oh,
me a early birthday gift in the format of a song. So she used an AI song called Suno,
oh yes.
Suno. So for those that haven't explored it, just mind-blowingly powerful AI with music. And so it wasn't her song, just lit me up to the possibilities like, oh my goodness, I could literally write the exact lyrics to the exact tonality to the exact emotion that I want to create in this new
Exactly.
playlist. And so yeah, and I know we have Justin Breen as a mutual friend in common. Because I texted him, I was like, have you met Justin? But anyway, so I created a new song that I think really exemplifies this it's called "One Step at a Time," and it's this new intention of like realizing that I've already arrived, I'm already whole, I've already completed, I don't need to create anything else, I've already succeeded in life. But it's not giving that up, because I do have a lot more to create, a lot more to benefit in the world. But it's the lyrics kind of fit that line of continuing to manifest your vision and create and express and share consciousness in the world at the same time, like not missing the small steps of every single life, and realizing that it's all unfolding in a beautiful timing. So yeah, I've been just really alive and on fire with continuing to create music that is a representation of my identity, my beliefs, the next level expression of it. And yeah, it's just been a really powerful process. So yeah, it was a little fun insight into our world last week.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. I love hearing that. And the fact that you really got clear what was the new way of being that you needed to be. And something else that I heard in what you said is, I think before you may have been running from something, which is, I don't want to stop,
Yep.
which the underneath that, there was something driving you, either a fear or anxiety. Can you share what that was?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I have the world's best parents. I literally, as my birthday present last night, we went and did a trapeze lesson, so I was hanging out with them, but just the one thing that I guess that I felt like I was running from a little bit of my childhood is we did financially struggle at times, and so I grew up on the free lunch program at school, and I just have these vivid memories of going through the lunch checkout line at school with my plastic tray and the chicken nuggets and the curly fries. And I went to a school that was in a really wealthy school district. So here I was getting government supported free lunch, but surrounded by friends that seemed like they could get whatever they want. So like that was a sticking point for me, and because I had all these different techniques of avoiding my friends seeing that when I would type in my student ID, it would show up on the screen, Brandon Fong, $0.00, free and reduced lunch program or whatever. So like I'd hide out in the bathroom extra days so that like
Oh,
I could just zip through the line, or I would distract them right before it came up on the screen. So I
yeah.
mean, like it was a beautiful childhood. Of my parents were into self development, they were working on growing their own
Mhm.
businesses, but there was definitely seasons of, man, I want to create something new and drive. So yeah, that's definitely part of the core of where it came from.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, I don't want to go back to that feeling. So I'm
Yeah.
going to have to keep gunning and gunning and gunning. But now you're in a different stage, right? And yet the subconscious is still like, no, we got to keep gunning because this is how we still survive and stay successful. That's what I mean by running from something. But
Yep.
the difference that you're saying now is there was a benefit to that, right? It allowed you to create some amazing things like this podcast, like your mastermind and the programs that you have. And yet we start to notice, well, what's the energy behind that that's not serving me? And it's coming at a cost. And the cost that we talked about is feeling like I can't be present with my family because I got to do 5 million things, because I have to keep, I don't want to stop. And then I'm
Yeah.
missing out on this time with my family, that my young daughter and my wife, who I really cherish. So those were some of the things. So the switch now is, well, how do I get the best of Brandon still, keep some of that superpower, but it's been driven by a different energy. And now you're
Mm.
running towards something.
Yep.
So the thing that you're running towards, tell me a little bit about the one step at a time. What is that, and how is that going to manifest for you?
Yeah. I mean, I am a, like you, I'm a, like we talked about the 7 Enneagram, right? And so it's like I'm a visionary dreamer, right? Like I believe my purpose is to create a more deeply connected world. And I when I look at the biggest problems our world faces today, I believe that like the root cause of so much of it is disconnection, and people not being connected deeper with themselves, and therefore limited in their ability to connect deeper with others. And then if we move to like the more spiritual encompassing things, that's like reduces your connection to all things, right? And so it's like it's learning how to my intention is to help people connect with that deep core of themselves, and then be able to express that and share that in the world. So I have so many different manifestations of that. Like you said, I have the island. I have that's the name of my mastermind, by the way, Curiosity Island. You said the mastermind, so I just realized I
Yes.
said the
Oh,
island
good. Yeah,
without saying
yeah.
that. So Curiosity Island, and then the core concept that drives that whole world, and creating more deep connection. And the actionable thing that I think really applies to people is this concept called find your four. And so that's kind of at the heart of my world. But yeah, the one step at a time is continuing to pursue that vision to create that deep connection in the world. But still, like, yeah, I have to look up some of the lyrics, but it's like my love's not measured in what I build, but in the hands I've held, the hearts I've filled, the dream's still rising, but so am I, not just in the stars, but in her eyes, as in my daughter. So it's like I get emotional just like
Oh,
looking at that. So it's definitely like it is that combination of still, there's another line that's like, no need to hurry, no need to climb. I have it all one step at a time. Where's the other, there's one other lyric where it's just all about this intention of like having it all, but still climbing. Like yeah, I have it all and still I climb, but I'll take it in one step at a time. So it's that new balance of manifesting that vision, but realizing that it's coming from a place of wholeness and completeness.
Yes, you're already whole and complete, right? So the running or the not stopping isn't about your safety, security, well-being anymore. It's about a
Yeah,
meaningful mission outside yourself. That's a whole different energy, right?
100%.
Whole different energy. So, well, I am thrilled. So I want to hear more about why curiosity. Why has that been the cornerstone of your work and what you want to create in the world?
I think the people that I've always respected the most are not just like intellectually curious about something. They just like, they have to go past the point of, oh, I wonder what that is, and they have to go experience it. And so like those are the moments when I've really felt the most alive in my life, whether it's been doing something crazy like a Spartan Ultra, like I started doing I ran a marathon because I hated running. I was just like, I wonder what it would look like to meet the human that's at the other end of that finish line. And so it's like I went and I did that, and I did a 100-mile bike and a Spartan Ultra. And I think like those are examples of like physical going beyond curious of like, wow, I've literally never ran this far. I'm in this zone that I've never been. And so that's just a trait that I've respected in people that I've looked up to, is people that are just, they have a vision for something, no one else has ever created it, if not who, me, and they have to go past the point of like, well, I guess it's got to be me. And so I think like curiosity is really the seed of any creation in the world. You have to have that wonder, and I think pure curiosity is when you're able to write your beliefs in pencil, not pen. Like that's what I love about your work, Susan, too, because it's like truly curious people are willing to question the underlying assumptions underneath everything, and they're willing to be detached and play. And so when you create from a sense of curiosity, it builds something so much more deep and so much more aligned and so much more base in your heart than if you're trying to head your way through the whole thing. And so yeah, I could speak about curiosity for forever, but I think it's just it's people that are really curious about, or curiosity for me is just people that are passionate about knowing who they are at their core, what drives them, what are my motivations, and then what are the different ways that I can express that in the world that inspires other people to say, wow, that's incredible, and I want to create that more of myself in the world. So it's kind of like an endless cycle of, if you are pursuing that part of you that is coming most alive and you're expressing that in the world, it just creates a lot of beautiful catalysts when it comes from that place of love and curiosity.
Absolutely. I love this phrase that, curiosity is the opposite of judgment. And
Yeah.
yes, at times we need both, but I think people tend to rely on judgment because it feels safe. Whereas
Hmm.
curiosity can feel, like a little crazy. And so what I like what about you're saying is it's not only being curious about yourself, it's also being curious about what's going on for other people. As
Hmm.
opposed to judging them, how about get curious? Why do they
Hmm.
believe what they believe? What's going on? And certainly in today's environment, I think many human beings are being pushed to really examine curiosity behind why someone believes what they believe and what's going on, because people are getting different sets of data
Yeah.
ultimately. And so really understanding, so what is the data that you're dialing up and what is the data you might be dialing down,
Yep.
and really starting to understand that. So I love your um, push on curiosity and why it matters. Tell us a little bit more about this idea of a framework. So you said you had what is it? The
Find your four.
find your four. Yes. Okay. Tell us
Yeah.
more about that.
So what I would love to do is I'll share the very high level of the concept, and then before I kind of like unpack the whole thing, I'll bring you back in with an example that I think will kind of tie it all together. So I always like to ask this for context, because you listening and maybe even you, Susan, I feel like it's a good question to kind of just establish a baseline. This whole concept is derived from the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. So I just love to ask you, Susan, at the beginning, like, on a scale of 1 to never heard of it to 10, I'm obsessed with it, I live my life by it, where do you fall on the scale of Pareto madness?
I mean, I would say probably 8, 7, 8. somewhere in
7,
there.
8. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So for those that fall on the lower end of the spectrum, just at a very high level, if you haven't heard of it, 80/20 is the core idea is that there are 20% of your actions that yield 80% of your results. And you can solve lots of problems by looking at life throughout this way. It's this recurring pattern. 80% of the wealth is held by 20% of the population. In your business, 80% of the problems are created by 20% of the customers. So how do you use this as a lens to make decisions and move throughout the world? And there's a disproportionate element that there are little hinges that swing big doors. And how do you find those hinges and optimize around those hinges? And so I love 80/20, but what really lit me up is when I learned that 80/20 is fractal, meaning it's a pattern within a pattern and you can apply it to itself. And so I eventually what I heard is that you can do 80/20 of the 4% of the 20%, and that's where you find out that there's 4% of your actions that create 64% of your results. And when I heard that for the first time, I was like, what could that be? I mean, there's curiosity. I was like, what is my 4%? How do I find my 4%? And then how do I fuel my 4%? And then there's the other. I'll share one other layer to it is that there you can do an 80/20 of the 4%. And this is where we start to get to weird nerdy numbers. So if the weird nerdy numbers don't serve you, ignore my weird nerdy numbers. But 0.8% of your actions create 51.2% of your results on the layer below. And the way I always describe this is kind of like Russian nesting dolls. The 20% area is what I call your area of brilliance or your zone of your brilliance. And inside of that lives your 4%, which are your potent actions and qualities. And then underneath the 4% are the 0.8%, and those are the core beliefs and identity. So you create the majority of the results in your life when you're aware of your core beliefs and identity and your most potent actions and qualities and are living in alignment with that and expressing that inside of a environment or a container of your 20% that allows that to express more in the world. And so this to me is the ultimate vehicle for answering all of the hardest questions to answer, because I went through this whole experience, which we didn't even share. It's I had a business fallout, and I sat for a year and asked myself all the questions that are hard to answer, as in like, what do I want? What are my core values? What are my superpowers? What's the impact I want to create? Who do I want to serve? All the big existential questions. And those are actually very difficult questions to ask yourself. But the process of finding your 4%, I believe energetically is a much more effective lens to pursue answering those questions, because your 4% gives you energy when you give it away. So if you build a life in alignment with your 4% and your core values, that's what creates a lot of magic in the world. So anyways, that I probably went a little bit more in depth than I normally would on a high level description, but I'll pass it back to you. And then if you want to go back into the exercise of pulling that out a little bit, we can.
Oh yeah, I want to see this in reality. So how do I find the 4%? What does that mean? How do you help people do that? But it's fascinating because it's really helping people understand that those superpowers, those lever points that they can pull to create, and that there's a lot of noise around that, and figuring out
Yep.
what that is really part of our journey and the curiosity of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like I said, I think the first words out of my mouth when you welcome me to the show is that quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. And for the longest time, I only ever viewed that from the negative perspective. Like, what are the negative limiting beliefs? But the same quote applies to its inverse, which is what are the unconscious things that you're doing that are creating the majority of your results? And how do you bring surface level awareness of what those are, and how do you build more in alignment with that? So yeah, to answer your question, like I have a bunch of different methodologies or ways that people can use it. But one of the coolest things that I've done is I built a custom GPT that can help you find this. And so I'll turn the tables back to you, Susan, and we'll do this in real time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to share a story. You'll share the story, and in real time, I'll have the GPT listening to it. And what the GPT is going to do is it's going to look at your story through the lens of those layers of consciousness that I just described. What's the 20%? What's the 4%? What's the 0.8%? So yeah, so the story that I'd love to ask for you to share is, can you think of a time when you created a meaningful result in your life, and the moment you crossed that finish line of whatever this accomplishment was, you felt so alive, you were bliss, you were just high on life when you created it. And the process of creating or manifesting that vision, the journey that you went on, was also incredible. So yeah, I guess I would love for you to share a story that you feel like encapsulates those two elements if something comes up for you.
Oh, sure. Wow. Those are powerful questions. I think what came to mind immediately is the publishing of my book, The Leader's Playlist. And because it was both the journey and the outcome that was meaningful to me. And so, why was that? Well, I had always wanted to write a book, but I didn't want it to be something that everyone had already done. I didn't want to rehash, like, I don't know, how to give feedback and how building trust is important. Like, there's a million books out there about these topics. I wanted to do something really unique and innovative. And I wasn't even sure what that was when I started the process. So it was just an exploration of writing. And I wrote the book myself. I did not put it to a ghostwriter or chat GPT. It was my exploration and writing stories about the leaders I had worked with, and started to see some themes and of the things that I worked with them on and what worked, and started to notice the patterns. And that's where more and more of the ideas came to me about what I would be focusing on, which is the power of music to build new neural networks more quickly. Plus, I was using that in my own life, and I kept thinking, wow, is there a way that people would be interested in this? But I'm interested in it, so let me just get more and more involved in it. And I actually loved the writing process. I was surprised by it. At first, I'd be like, oh, I've got to write. I have this block on my calendar, I got to write. But then once I'd get into it, it was like time. I was in a flow state. But also, what helped me is the pandemic happened, and it was because it was slow going prior to the pandemic. Because I'm so busy on the road delivering workshops, coaching, and now 50% of my business went away during the pandemic. And that was a shocker, and that was scary. But it gave me this gift of time to complete the book, which was ultimately a massive success. So I put the time that I got back to really good use. And I felt a little bit like a phoenix rising from the ashes, which must be why I live in Phoenix or something. but but not only was that powerful, but even the sort of the support that came my way when I went to market and launch the book, and how I had so many people in my life reach out to support, to promote the book, to give reviews. It felt like I had worked to pull back 100 arrows ready to fire all on the same launch day. And the love that I got back and the commitment of others to support this piece of work was just so touching and meaningful. And I felt like on top of the world right at that moment. And still this day, it's one of my proudest achievements.
That is beautiful. I love it, and I love the book. So, I mean, if anyone listening to your podcast hasn't read your own book, here's Brandon's endorsement that you should, because I'm so excited to dive deeper into manifesting it, right, and creating these playlists. So you're truly correct when you said that you found something that I feel like I haven't really heard into that taps into it. And as we alluded to with AI being able to create that, like I think your timing is definitely divine on it. So thank you for sharing that beautiful story. So what I'm going to do is, I know we publish video and audio, so I'm going to attempt at describing what's going on for my audio friends, and for your video friends, you can kind of experience what's going on here. So I'm going to say, so I'm inside of my custom GPT right now, and I'm going to say, can you please help find the 20%, 4%, and 0.8% of Susan based on this story. So I'm gonna hit send on this right now. And keep in mind, the one thing I always, and I'm doing this live without a net, right? So like this could be terribly off, and Susan, you can be like, this is not me at all. Or maybe I crush it and maybe the GPT works really well. But the one thing I always say is that one of my core values is what I call conscious storytelling. I believe that our stories are the medium of our reality, both the ones that we tell externally and the ones that we tell internally. And so like, that's what's so beautiful about this process, is that I have GPTs that do this. We do this in Curiosity Island, where we leverage facilitations with people, but like your 4% is hidden inside of your stories. So even just as an action item right here, like listen to the question that I asked Susan, your response to that question of what is an accomplishment that you had that was meaningful meaningful for you, but the process of creating it, if you just simply share that story to yourself or if you journal on it, there's a lot of gold that's waiting to be packed inside of that, because your 4% is something that I believe shifts over time, but it's been consistent throughout your very early childhood. So what's cool about this is I've shared so many different stories in my community and receiving feedback and mirrors from others. I always like to say mirrors, not mentors, and also leveraging the GPT. But there's like so much that is embedded inside of these stories. So all that to say is we've only shared it with one story. Obviously, Susan, you are a much more multidimensional being than this one story that you shared, but we'll see if it got us in the right track. So it pulled out your 20% area of brilliance as transformational thought leadership. Susan thrives in generating and sharing unique insights that challenge conventional thinking. Her brilliance lies in crafting innovative frameworks and delivering them in a way that deeply resonates with others. Writing her book wasn't just about adding to the leadership conversation, it was about pushing the boundaries of what's possible, uncovering fresh perspectives, and creating something truly novel. So, again, I guess I'm a scale of 1 to 10 question kind of guy. On a scale of 1 being like, that's a completely different human, who are you talking about, to 10 being like, you're inside my brain, get out. Where do we fall on this scale right now?
Yeah, I think that's a 10. That's pretty
Okay.
amazing.
All right.
I
I'll
mean,
take
that's what
that. I'll take it.
matters to me is really creating innovation at a bigger scale.
Okay, love that. Okay, so again, remember, these are Russian nesting dolls. So it's like this is the area. And that's what I love about 80/20 is I think that 80% of your problems can be solved locationally, meaning if you're operating outside of this 20%, like simply putting yourself in the right context or environment where you would get to express that is magical. So like even if we didn't go into the 20%, I think if you learned what are the different domains or different areas of brilliance where you are most I'm sure anybody that's been an enlightened executive listening to this is like there have been environments where you have been pushing so freaking hard, you've been pushing a rock uphill, and then there are certain areas where it's like that was work, but you created the majority of the results. It's like locationally being aware of how to place this is really important. So that's the 20%. So it pulled out your 4% as trailblazing through exploration. So it pulled out, it looks like 5 key elements of your 4% that were embedded in that story. The first is commitment to originality. She refuses to settle for rehashed ideas, ensuring her work is unique and deeply meaningful. Pattern recognition and innovation. Hey, I know that one lands. I cheated because I interviewed
Yeah.
you last week. She identifies recurring themes and underlying structures, transforming them into powerful frameworks like the connection between music and neural networks. Flow state and creation. When she's fully immersed in writing and ideation, she enters a state where time fades away. Her passion fuels the process. Turning challenges into opportunities. When the pandemic disrupted her business, she didn't retreat. She used that as a moment, as a catalyst to complete her book. And then community cultivation and reciprocity. The outpouring of support during her book launch wasn't random. It was a reflection of the relationship she had nurtured over time. So again, scale of 1 to 10, where are we landing on this one right now?
Oh, those all really resonate with me. This is really powerful, particularly, I mean, as you know, I'm all about pattern recognition and pattern disruption. So the fact that, it pulled that out of there and codified it. I think I mentioned it maybe once, but it really almost heard it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So then we'll go through the last piece here. Core empowering beliefs and core identity. So remember the bottom layer of the Russian nesting doll, the magic, like we never take an action without an associated set of beliefs underneath it. So how do we become aware of those deep core beliefs and then power that on top of living in alignment with these? And I like what has been so magical for me is I view all of these as like the raw Lego building blocks. Like when you can look at things and see, okay, what might I build with the, again, curiosity question, what might be possible if I built with these as the raw building blocks? That's
Yeah.
why when people ask me what I do today, it's like, well, I own an imaginary island where really successful people come and play and pay me money to solve each other's problems. It's like, it's been like a crazy breaking down of like, okay, imagination is a big part of it, is creating frameworks is a big part of it, facilitating connection, and like, how do you build with all those different things or create different environments where you're naturally designed to thrive? So anyways, core beliefs and identity, it pulled out as if I create from a place of genuine curiosity and passion, it will resonate. She trusted that her personal exploration of music's power would lead to something meaningful for others. So, I mean, I guess what I heard in that is that you were solving a problem that you wanted to create and that you were leveraging it yourself. So, adversity is a launching pad, not a limitation. The pandemic initially seemed like a setback because it became the very thing that allowed her to compete at one of her Oh my gosh, I can't even read it now. Complete one of her greatest achievements. And the last is, the more I give, the more comes back to me. The massive support for her book wasn't just luck, it was a result of years of contributing to other success. So that's what it put as your core in the bottom there. So yeah, that's a walkthrough of your what it got from that one story.
That's amazing. Amazing. So putting something like this into practice, what would a leader or an entrepreneur take from this and do and kind of how would they reorient themselves?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, whether you use the GPT or not, actually, what this process evolved into, like a GPT that I believe supplements it. But I think like one of the things I respect about the way that I've designed this facilitation structure is it allows deep connection while connecting deeper with yourself. So, like, if you sat down with somebody that you're committed to helping elevate their impact in the world, just one, stories are what connects us. Like if you can sit and be present and listen to a story and then reflect back at them, that's so like in lots of my facilitations, that's all it is. It's like I'll have someone share a story like exactly like that. And we actually use collaborative Google Docs where I have 6 people in real time typing out what they're seeing and hearing about someone else. But I would just say like answer that question and then maybe share it with someone meaningful and engage in a dialogue where you would like have them look at your response through the lens of, you don't even have to describe the 4%, but like what are you viewing as like the core beliefs or the actions that empowered this. And so you can get pretty far by having another human unlock that from you. But I would say that that's a way that you could start to action it is not only asking yourself that question, but either in journaling of looking at your own response or in through conversation with someone else. It's just allowing them to, I don't even know if I said this quote already, you can't read the label from inside the jar, right? If
Yes,
you're inside of a
yes.
pickle jar, having somebody read your label on the outside is one of the most healing and transformational things. So yeah, that's how I would encourage people to go about implementing or
Well, it's
leveraging some of
super
it.
powerful. Well, I would love to get a copy of what you just created because that
Yeah.
was magical. And if somebody else wants to do this, how do they do that?
Yeah, of course. So I would recommend people can go check out episode. I did a full masterclass on the Find Your Four process. So you can go check out episode 221 on my show. And then I'll give away there's a bunch of other stuff in there. But there's also, I'll create a short link for you guys if you're interested in getting a full, like all the best resources that I have in helping you find your 4% and live in alignment with your 4%. You can use the link. And by the way, this is going to sound like a weird link. So I always tell people at first, I bought the domain from Nigeria because I wanted to create a short link that was my name. So the domain is bfo.ng for B Fong, Brandon Fong. So that's the domain is bfo.ng/enlightened exec. We'll make that the link, bfo.ng/enlightened exec, and that'll get you a bunch of find your four goodies of helping you to uncover your 4% and live more in alignment of that.
Love the concept and love what you built in helping people see the magic inside of them. What a gift you are to the world, Brandon. I'm thrilled that you're here doing the kind of work you're doing and even more excited to see what you're going to create from the space of one step at a time.
Love that. Thank you, Susan. It's been so amazing experiencing you and your work. Anyone listening is in the right spot, listening and learning from an amazing human. So thank you for everything that you've shared with me and the new awarenesses that I have, because now I can implement and grow my 4% from a different space than it was operating from before. So I have a new 0.8% layer that you added over the past week or so, which is awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, if you like this episode, you're not going to want to miss my interview with Philip Wilson, who believes the world's most pressing problems can be solved by applying business practices to the top social challenges that we face. Let's all lead the way. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'd like to point you to the next important step. Hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when we release new content. I'll see you on the next episode of The Enlightened Executive.